it's time to touch some grass and take a nice short hike. A short hike is a little bit of an interesting game on this channel because I actually already played it all the way back in the far off time of 2021. Except shortly after I played it and 100%ed it, they added a couple new achievements. So I figured what better time to go back in and go ahead and grab those, just a couple years late. A short hike takes place in Hawk Peak Park, and we are playing as Claire, a bird who is looking for some cell service. Apparently we've been waiting all day for a call that just doesn't want to come in, and it's because we don't get cell service down here at our house where we are staying with our Aunt May, the park ranger. But Aunt May knows this place like the back of her hand, and she says that maybe we should consider hiking all the way up to Hawk Peak in order to grab some cell service and take that call that we want to get. Sounds like a pretty good plot for a game. I think we're in. I would say the main movement option in this game is the glide you can do because you're a bird, and I would say we have a pretty big advantage having played this game before. We kind of got the movement down already. We do a quick check behind some waterfalls for a secret, but there don't seem to be any in this area at least. Very quickly down the beach, we find our first quest giver, a child that wants us to find 15 shells around the island and bring them back for some mysterious prize. I guess it's going to be that kind of game. We find those shells and other things that we can grab and add to our inventory, such as sticks and coins, all scattered throughout the island, and we can go ahead and just walk over those and pick them right up. There are also some chests scattered around that contain, once again, coins and also some feathers sometimes, but we'll get more into that in a minute. Our next NPC of note is this frog chilling on the beach building some sand castles, but they are using a shovel that's a little bit too big for sand castles, so maybe we can find one that will work in exchange and we can go ahead and make that swap. We also kind of join a rock climbing club. I don't know, these guys seem a little bit strange. Maybe this isn't the place for us. We're really front-loading the NPCs we need to talk to in this game. We also find this goat-looking person who seems to have lost their watch and wants us to go find it. Alright, another classic search and find mission. Easy enough, probably. Now, our Aunt Spider-Man is one of the park rangers, but we managed to find our way to a second park ranger, and I guess also like the central park ranger base here next to this big roaring fire. And this is actually a pretty important place of note because this park ranger can sell us some golden feathers. Now only 2 of them, but these golden feathers rapidly improve our ability to move around the island. For each golden feather that we hold, we can do another jump up in the air, and it also improves our general stamina, so that's super great. And we can use our first extra jump of glide jump power to collect a second golden feather for even more jump ability. And a little bit past that, back down on another beach, we find a toy shovel. Well, I guess that makes our exchange pretty fair then. Finishing up this little corner of the map island, we find a painter who is looking for an abstract painting of the coastline, but isn't super happy with their results, so they seem to want to move to a different area. Maybe we'll see them later. We return to the castle building Frog and exchange our toy shovel for their real shovel, and now we can start to do some digging when we find appropriate spots around the island. With the first little area of the map wrapped up, it's time for us to continue pushing forward into this nice big forest area where we once again find another golden feather pretty easily, honestly. These will probably get a lot harder later. We meet a rabbit who's down to trade a sweatband for some running shoes, so now we have the ability to run on the ground, but honestly, I don't really use this feature all that much. Nice to have though. On the edge of the forest, we find the painter, who is once again working on a piece that looks pretty great, but they're still not happy with it, so they're gonna move somewhere else. Emerging out of the forest, we find a pretty cool area with a nice big classic red and white lighthouse, and we have a great overlook vantage point on Spider-Man May, and we get a pretty cute scene where we yell down, asking if she can hear us and we can see our house from here, etc, etc. We hop over to the other side of the big forest and we scale the side of the mountain a little bit. Here we find a little bit of a waterfall and some hidden chests. Nice little area to get into discovering. And now that we've pretty much skirted all the way around that forest area, we find ourselves in the big overlook, big open area called Meteor Lake. Why is it called that? Well, it's like a big kind of donut shape around a big lake in the middle, like a meteor. This area gives big Minecraft vibes for some reason. Maybe the main thing that reminds me of Minecraft here is just that Bill the Walrus teaches you about fishing in this game, which is actually pretty simple. You just throw the bobber in the water, and then where you are kind of determines what kind of fish you get. Is it also a little weird that this is like the only character in the game whose name I actually know? I normally just call them by whatever animal they are. Anyway, with Bill's help, we managed to catch our first fish, a common carp, and this is the first in a long road of fish that we're going to need to catch all around the island. And while I know Bill's name, my favorite NPC might be this guy that's actually hiding out in the forest and appears to be illegally camping there. Allegedly, he actually has a pass to camp in the park, but it was eaten by a fish, so I don't know what to do with that. Although another pretty good NPC in this game is this other bird that wants to challenge us to a series of parkour races. The first one is pretty simple, just from one corner of the map over to that lighthouse, and it's all stuff that we've already explored up to this point of the game, so it's no big deal, but we managed to win just barely. The future races are going to be even tougher. Like the title mentions, this is a pretty short game, so with one side of the island already pretty much explored, we decide to head over to another side where we climb to the top of a tower and we find yet another golden feather. Oh man, I keep saying that like every NPC we meet is my favorite NPC, but these two are also pretty hard to beat. There are two other little birds hanging out on the beach near a volleyball net playing a game, and we have to get involved. The name of the game is Beach Stick Ball. There is a volleyball being passed around between two players in a volleyball sort of style, except instead of using your hands, you are hitting it with a stick that you find on the ground. It's really pretty simple, but as you just saw, I managed to tremendously fail on the first attempt. Oopsies. But on our second attempt, things go quite a bit better, and for getting 10 hits in one volley of Beach Stick Ball, we earn a golden feather. We'll swing back here in a little bit though. At this point, I basically just decided to continue wrapping around all the way left as far as I could around the map, and we enter a weird area that has some mines and a graveyard and seems to be constantly raining. Definitely a slightly different vibe from the other side of the map that we've been to. Continuing our trip around to the left, we discover the ship captain, who is actually the guy we'll be turning all of the fish that we catch into. So, inevitably when we start working on the achievement for turning in all of the fish, we'll be spending a little bit more time over here. But as it was always going to, our trip left around the island eventually results in us wrapping all the way back around to where we started. So I guess we've kind of seen everything at the base level at this point, right? In addition to all that exploring we did, we actually did manage to track down 15 shells for that first quest that we were given. So in exchange, we get a shell necklace to give to our aunt. I guess it's kind of a reward. Oh, well, actually, when we hand that over to our aunt, she remembers that she actually found a golden feather for us earlier, so we do get something out of it at least. And after our big trip around the island, we managed to collect a little bit of money. So the first thing that I did was return to that ranger station to buy the 1 of 1 minted ranger hat. I actually thought that there was an achievement for this, but there simply is not. We'll just be looking pretty fly with our hat on for the rest of the game. With the base level of the peak all finished up, we decided to start heading up the mountain a little bit, and things begin to get a little snowy, so that's kind of concerning. Up here, we finally get a name for these little plants that we've seen dotted around the island. They're called rubber flowers, and they are the official flower of Hawk Peak. Except they don't become rubber flowers until they've been watered. Oh, and what do you know, there happens to be a water bucket sitting right next to that we can use to water this first plant, and we're gonna have to use it to water all of the other plants as well. Getting nearer the peak of Hawk Peak, we find a very steep wall with a cool older bird leaning against it. This older bird went down to the ranger station at opening hours and picked up all of the golden feathers and is now selling them for a huge markup, just like it's a set of prismatic evolutions. That's a scalping joke. I don't know if you're into the Pokemon TCG. At least this scalper has a kind of reasonable reason for doing this. They're short on tuition for the next semester, so they're gonna need at least 400 more coins to make that goal. And I guess you can probably see where this is going in the late game. But the scalper does manage to help us out a little bit, as we earn the achievement Feather Finder for collecting our first 10 golden feathers. Now only 12 more to go. We meet back up with our painter friend, and we get a little bit more insight. The reason that they're not happy with the paintings that they're working on is that they really want people to look at them and feel like they've achieved something academically with the time that they've spent here. We wander around doing a little bit of cleanup, working on finishing up some of those flowers that need to be watered, and we just happen to bounce on one that shows us the location of a golden feather. That's pretty convenient, actually. I remembered from the first playthrough of this game that there are actually a couple smaller islands dotted around the area surrounding the main Hawk Peak area as well, so I decided to go out and look around at some of those. And on one of those islands we find a couple of deer, I think they are? I don't know, they're some sort of animal. A father and a child, and the child wants to go out boating, but the father is busy at work. So I guess we can go ahead and grab the boat key and take the child out for now. I gotta say, piloting the motorboat in this game feels a little out of place, but it is super sick that it exists. I mean, look at these sick drifts that we're pulling off here. Nothing quite like it. The first of the 4 achievements added to this game after I played it the first time is only you can prevent campfires for putting out 4 campfires around the map. And if you do this one outside the ranger station, you get a pretty funny reaction. We're actually kind of surprisingly deep into the game at this point, so it's time to do a little bit more clearing up. We redo the race with the bird from the beginning of the game to earn our first parkour medal. Again, total of 3 of these that we need to collect for winning races. The second race takes place starting from the graveyard and racing over to the top of a big tower, and again, this one is pretty close, but we just barely managed to eke out a victory. This earns us our second of the 3 medals, but we'll have to wait for the third one. We talk to the artist who is hanging out just outside of the graveyard, painting in the rain, totally normal stuff. And we get a little bit more of their story. They have been invited to the big city by Ian Artsworth, famous art collector, to some big showcase. And they're just worried that their landscapes won't hold up against the contemporary stuff that other people are working on. The next step of our cleanup process, we are going to go ahead and return for another game of beach stick ball. This time we get up to 53 total hits, and luckily we just barely managed to get the 30 that we needed to earn the commemorative hat and the achievement Remember This Day Forever. This bird literally gave us the hat off of their head. That's kind of wild. Alright, now it's time to return to the island deer to go for their achievement. The child deer has cooked up a great idea to take the boat out for a big cool race. Basically kind of a time trial thing where we need to go around corners pretty quick and eventually hit a big jump off of a ramp. But the boat doesn't seem to take the jump super well. We can't really take it back to Reindeer Dad in this condition, considering he didn't really want us to do the boat race ramp jump anyway, so we decided to head over to the ship captain, who obviously knows how to fix boats, right? Oh, well, actually he does, and he gets it done, and everything's good. So now the reindeer child removes the ramp, and we can go back to attempting the boating course. Hopefully without destroying the boat this time. The racetrack itself is pretty straightforward, though controlling it at the start is a little bit rough. It does this weird thing where when you turn the boat to be like coming towards the camera instead of away from it, the controls kind of flip, and it was just a little weird to get used to. This is without a doubt the hardest achievement in the game here. We need to manage to complete the course in under 45 seconds, and we have some close calls, but it's a little bit of a struggle. The real main problem here is that you get a 10-second penalty anytime you bump a wall or hit something in the water, and I mean, that's probably fair enough. We shouldn't be hitting things in the water, but really that just means that it takes us a little bit more adjusting to earn the Not a Scratch achievement for completing the boat race in under 45 seconds. With that pretty difficult achievement out of the way, we decide that maybe it's time to go ahead and make our final ascent up to Hawk Peak, and our first step up the big wall, we bump into those rock climbers we met before. I guess it is a small island. One interesting thing to notice here is that once you use up any of your golden feathers worth of stamina, that feather becomes iced over and it can't be recovered. That is until you manage to make your way over to a fire pit or to one of the hot springs that can actually recover your feathers and unfreeze them. Pretty cool little mechanic for this last little challenging trek of the game. We also managed to stumble across the higher up ranger station with this polar bear park ranger who advises us that we might not be prepared enough yet, but honestly, I think we're alright. The process of climbing up from here is honestly pretty straightforward. They give you a lot of opportunities to rest and heal up your frozen feathers, which makes sense because I think you only need 6 to actually make it to the top, so obviously we have way more than that. It is a pretty cool sight though, with the map twisting as you walk around. It's neat stuff. Right before we reach the top, we find a broken down bridge and a fox friend who has been standing at it, trying to find a way to cross, but without the bridge doesn't really seem possible for them. Maybe we can find another way up for them once we reach the top though. The fox can't make it up, but we can't really concern ourselves with that right now. We're so close to the top that we can finally earn the achievement Hawk Peak for saying that we've made it all the way to the top of the mountain. And man, you really just need to sit down and take in what a gorgeous view this is. The whole game really, but right here especially. It's actually pretty lucky that we got here when we did. As we're chilling, looking out at the aurora borealis around us, our cell phone starts ringing. If we got here just a couple minutes later, we probably would have missed this call, but now we are super excited to realize that the call we've been waiting for is from our mom. Our mom talks about how we've been growing up and leaving the nest, and soon we won't need her. But apparently the reason that we've been looking forward to this phone call so much is while we were here for the summer, our mom had some sort of surgery. We would have liked to be there to support her, but she didn't want us to worry. And I guess there was actually nothing to worry about because, it's over and we're through it now. Just like we're pretty much through this game as we see some air begin to erupt from Hawk Peak, the famous Hawk Peak updraft. The first time I played through this game, this was a really great moment. You get shot way up into the sky and you do a nice big dive all the way around the mountain with a super long arc getting to see everything that you've already seen. But this time I super messed that up, I let go of the stick, and we shot directly down to the ground. We return to talk to Aunt May and tell her that our mom said hello, and Claire says that she wouldn't call it a short hike. Ha ha ha, roll credits. But no, actually, we could roll the credits right here, but we've got a couple more achievements to grab, so we're gonna go ahead and do those before we call it an end. Our first move is to return to that fox that we left stranded on the side of the mountain. Obviously we know the way up now, so we can loan them a couple of our feathers to improve their climbing strength, and we can both get to the top. And it really pays to be nice because our foxy friend happened to bring a camera with them, so now we can get a super cool picture of us posing with these amazing looking lights in the background. Here we earned the achievement Photo Friends, another one of those ones that was added after I played through initially. Also, we take our feathers back before we climb down, so I guess the fox is stranded. The other thing that we can do now that we've been all the way up to the peak of the mountain is to do the third and final parkour race, which takes us all the way up to the summit of the mountain. This is another pretty cool race. I mean, obviously it's the biggest one in the game, spanning basically the entire path that you would take if you just ignored all of the little side areas in the game where we are blitzing straight up the path all the way to the peak. But this being the longest race doesn't necessarily mean that it's the most difficult race. We actually won by quite a fair amount of time. We ended up waiting for a little bit for the other bird to catch up, but anyway, that doesn't matter because we earn our third parkour medal and we earn the achievement Parkour Master. With the races all wrapped up, it's time for us to work on what's probably the most annoying achievement. We need to go catch all of the fish, and a lot of these only spawn under certain conditions, so we're going to need to wander around and figure out which ones we've missed and where the ones that we've missed have spawned. Like for example this albino white perch that we catch in the river, or this salmon that we catch in the river. Okay, actually maybe I just skipped out on all the river fish. And while we're on our fishing trip, we bump into the artist again, who is complaining that they want people to feel something when they look at their artwork and they feel like they're just not getting there. But Claire tells them that that's what we've been trying to get through to them with this entire time. We feel something when we look at it. It's beautiful. Anyway, now that we've caught all of the fish, we can return to the boat captain and turn them all in, which earns us the achievement The Fish Are Biting Today, and we get gifted the solid gold fishing rod. And on our way to go pawn that golden fishing rod, we throw one cast in and catch the actual rainbow trout, which is pretty neat as well. This game really has it all achievements wise, even one that is time based. Apparently there is a super famous dish, strawberries and toast, that is only served at the ranger station at 5 p.m, so it's time to wait a little bit. And while we're waiting, we notice that our artist friend has one more spot to visit. They've decided to paint the things that they want to paint instead of what they think people want them to paint, and so they are painting the ranger station with the ranger sitting in front of the fire, which is probably a pretty cool shot, to be fair. Definitely better than that one that got rained on. Anyway, we kill enough time with the artist that it's finally 5 p.m, and yes, I actually waited until real 5 p.m, I didn't just set the game clock. But when we speak to the ranger, turns out he's out of strawberries, so I guess we're just going to be taking the toast today. Well, we came here on an empty stomach, so I guess we'll go ahead and eat just this piece of plain toast, but that happens to earn us the achievement crispy anyway. We've had pretty heavy pockets for a while now, so getting to the end of the game, I decided to finally revisit that cool teen bird who was looking for the tuition money and hand some over. In exchange, they give us a wristwatch, which I think we know somebody that was looking for one of those. Yep, we sure did. This guy who is camping out in the valley wanted his watch back, and when we return it, he's so excited he gives us a silver feather. And with that one added to our wings, we only have one feather left remaining to find. So I guess let's go look for that. Maybe it's hidden in a buried treasure chest somewhere, and we can grab it and earn the achievement Feathers Forever for finding every feather. Oof, that's a lot of foof sounds. So that leaves us with only 2 achievements remaining, and I have one final achievement that was added after I played through the first time. Green thumb for watering every one of the rubber plants. We actually just missed out on one of them throughout our exploration of the game, this one here in Meteor Lake, but we find it and we earn it. So with that knocked out of the way, we return to Aunt May one final time to tell her how great of a time we had this summer and how happy we were to have visited. And with that, we've become a little bit sleepy, so we return to the cabin and take a nice long nap as we earn the achievement The End and credits roll. And we've officially done everything in a short hike. But how did we do? My first time through a short hike took me about 2.5 hours, and the second time actually took me about 4 hours, so I guess I've gotten worse at gaming since 2021. But actually the reason for that is probably the couple of achievements that were added after I played the first time include the boat race for 45 seconds and getting all of the flowers watered, so those are 2 of the harder achievements. Overall, you know, as an achievement hunter, I'm always a little bit upset when a game adds new achievements when I've already finished the game once, but I'm actually pretty happy with these, having gone back a couple years later. I definitely never would have played this game again had these achievements not been added, and it was a pretty fun time. I feel like you don't really see people talking about this game that much anymore. I feel like for a little bit it was at that kind of upper echelon, like indies that you want to play, everybody's got to play, you know, on all those sorts of tier lists and things like that. I don't know, maybe it's still considered like at that tier, but I feel like I just don't hear anybody talk about this game anymore. It is a pretty short game, but I mean, I guess you could probably guess that from like the title coming in, you know. Anyway, I would definitely give this game a big recommend if you're into these sort of little adventure games where it's really about talking to people and learning about the characters that are in the world. Really a journey before the destination sort of thing, though that destination did look pretty cool. As always, thank you so much for watching these videos, and I hope you're having a great day. Hope to see you in the next one as well. Please feel free to leave any comments you have down in the comment section below, and I hope to see you next time. See you!